I wish to ask you to speak about what you mentioned some time ago. How can those anchors within us be removed? How can we let go the things that we are holding on to, which prevent us from freely following the flow of Krishna consciousness? Does one have the capacity to do it out of his own attempt or not? Okay. Well, it's a very good topic. It's a very good topic. Because the point is that everything is within us, right? Nitya Siddha Krishna Prem Sajja Kapunoi Shravanadi Shuddha Chitte Koroye Udoy. It is mentioned in Chaitanya Charitamrita that you don't have to go somewhere else to get this thing, this divine substance, this Krishna Prema. You don't have to go get it from another place, but it's already within. But Shravanadi Shuddha Chitte Koroye, through the process of hearing and chanting, then that can be awakened. That natural wealth within can be awakened. So then the question is, this is what Tungarasa is pointing out that, we have this wealth within, but at present we have covers, or anchors is the word she uses here, which are obstructing that natural flow of the heart towards Krishna. So how do we get rid of those? And can we do it on our own? This is really like this is the question, could say, the question. And it is a, making progress. It's a combination of multiple factors, and ultimately we do depend on grace more than anything else, and particularly, this is in contrast to other Vedic lines of thought. Well, you could say, like, these are two particular lines which are in contrast to each other, and these terms, many of you know, they come up a lot in our discussions, but Aroha Panta and Avaroha Panta, the ascending method and the descending method. The ascending method referring to our individual attempt, means progress. Aroha Panta, progress that is based upon our endeavors as an individual, like becoming a great sports person, a great athlete. That's depending upon your own effort, your own training, and so on. So like practices like yoga, meditation, they're in that line. Through your own austerities, meditation, practices, renunciation, study, cultivation of knowledge, one can ultimately become free of the bodily conception, and come to the conception of spirit, realize the spirit within. But the thing is, all of those processes, that will only give you the passport. Srila Sridhar Maharaj uses this analogy. You will only, through the approach of the Aroha Panta, the ascending method, self-ascension, we can only gain a passport. We can only come to realize our identity as soul. But then to enter a higher world, the dynamic divine world, that's not a right, that's a privilege. Just like, now we're planning this trip to India, and, getting entrance into India is not a right, it is a privilege. And that privilege is given to us in the form of a visa, right? That visa means, okay, we've decided it's in our interest that you can enter. And so we're giving you this dispensation. So in the same way, to gain entrance into the divine service world, that is a privilege. And that privilege is only extended, on the same terms, that it will be considered that we're coming to contribute something. We're coming to add something. We're coming to move, at least, even if we can't add anything, we're coming to move in harmony with that higher flow, not to establish our own, monopoly of something, or to establish our own position in some way, but we're coming to contribute, to move with that higher flow. So that requires grace. That is high. That approach, the Avaroha Panta, the descending method, that's depending primarily upon grace, descending grace. But then the question comes, how do we attract that grace? And that's where our own effort comes in. So I'm just going to close the door here. It's a bit noisy. So the question is then, how can we attract that higher grace? And it's actually a subtle point, which we can often forget in our practices, right? What I'm saying is, for example, say we're chanting on our japa mala, on our chanting beads, then there's a subtle difference in thought here, because one may be thinking, oh, I'm chanting, and by this chanting, by these moving of the beads and the vibration coming from my mouth, I'm making progress. Right? Like I'm chanting the holy name and I'm making progress. That's one way of thinking. Another way of thinking is, actually, I'm not really able to chant, but I'm showing my effort. I'm showing my sincerity, right? By sitting here and following the instruction of my guru. And that's another factor. Our guru asked us to chant, and so I'm invoking his mercy by following his instruction. Just in and of itself, my chanting on beads, that's not worth very much. Something. The Lord's name is still there in some small capacity. But really, what is the activating principle there? That our guru asked us to chant. That's his request. And by following his request, we are inviting his mercy. And we're also showing our sincerity. We're showing our effort. We're showing that we really want to please the higher, that we want to connect with their higher will. So it's not just that activity of chanting on beads that is really going to support our progress, but it's that we're connecting with that higher flow, that we are inviting that higher grace into our lives. This morning there was a question that came up about idolatry, right? And what is the difference between idolatry and deity worship, right? The difference is that deity worship is connected with higher revelation and the higher will. Right? So we're not just going and picking out some mundane object and arbitrarily worshiping that according to our own ideas. That's idolatry, that's idol worship. But the scriptures have described what does the Lord look like. That has been confirmed in the heart's revelation of great saints. And then if a saint has the desire to reveal that form in this world, for their loving worship, then that is a purely spiritual manifestation. Like this deity here, we will think this here, and now the altar is closed, but we will think that this deity is the Lord that is living in our guru's heart. That's what's really significant here, that this deity of Krishna, Radha, Lord Chaitanya, Mahaprabhu, they're living in the heart of our guru. And our guru has revealed that in this world. Then that becomes divine. And our guru desired that this temple was established. So offering service here, that's connecting with the divine plane. Anybody can go and buy a building and go to the market and buy some deities, and it may be karma. It will be good karma, but it's still karma. But if you have the desire of a pure devotee of the Lord, oh, please spread this mission, then that divine will is backing you, then that becomes a spiritual activity. This is one of the great, this is one of the merciful gifts of our gurus, that they're giving us the opportunity. They're creating service opportunity, because they come in this world with a particular desire. They're descending from a higher world with a particular desire. And if we can fulfill that desire, then that energy is going to be offered up to that divine world. And the reciprocation will descend to us from the higher world. So that's not karma, that's in the line of devotion. And by karma, I mean that we're doing something that will bring about some mundane result. Why? Because it's coming from the plane of our own ego. If we do something that is based upon our own ego, then that will have a karmic result. That will have a result within this mundane plane. And it may be a good karmic result, but it's still going to be within the jurisdiction of this mundane world, an action and reaction within this mundane world. No, but we are not interested in that. We are interested in the eternal welfare of the soul. So we want to connect with that higher plane, that nirguna plane, that transcendental plane that is beyond the jurisdiction of this mundane plane. So that is why having the connection of a Vaishnava, of a true Vaishnava, who's connected with the Lord's current, that is crucial. That is absolutely essential. And it is their grace, that they come in this world and they bring some mission. They give us something to do, their general request, their overall request is, please, spread this movement of Harinam Sankirtan. They're coming and they're giving us some service. And by fulfilling that service, we're connecting with that higher plane. So that is our great fortune. So that is indispensable for progress in our spiritual life. And our Gurudev, he likes the analogy of Mother Jashoda when she's tying Krishna up. Now the month of Kartik just passed, and one of the names of this month is Damodar, right? And Damodar indicates the Lord who is being bound around the belly. And because, referring to that pastime, that Leela, when his mother ties him up, right? And we're told that when she's going to tie him up, the rope is always mysteriously 2 fingers too short, and she's pulling more and more rope, but it's still always too short. And then finally, when she's at her wit's end and her hair is falling out and her makeup is smearing and she's sweating and she's huffing and she's puffing, then finally Krishna allows himself to be bound. And Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he has a wonderful commentary that these 2 fingers of rope that were missing, that were lacking, one finger represents the mercy of the Lord, and the other finger represents the effort, the endeavor of the practitioner. Welcome, Scarlett, just joined us. And Devi Shakti is with us today. Wow, very exciting. So this is the thing, right? By our own effort, by our own endeavor, we are inviting grace. But it's not a formula, and there's no guarantee of anything, right? This is what distinguishes Bhakti from other Vedic practices. It's not necessarily 2 + 2 is 4. It's not necessarily, if you wake up at 4 a.m. every day for 1 year and you chant 16 rounds and you distribute 500 books, then you're going to go back to Godhead. It doesn't work like that. But if you can do all of that, and in the process of that, break down your ego, then you can expect some results. But if you're doing all of that and aggrandizing your ego, increasing your ego, then it will have the opposite result. Krishna is looking at our heart. Bhava Grahi Janardana. He's looking for the heart. He's looking for the mood. So whatever we can do, this is the point. right? Whatever we can do that is increasing our devotional mood, then that's helpful. That's helpful. And so there are 9 practices of devotion, right? And different things that are recommended, associate, sadhu sangha, association, service life, chanting of the holy name. All these things are recommended. But it's not that doing all those things will guarantee this result of Krishna prema, divine love. Why? Because it's this mood that we're actually interested in culturing. So Srila Sridhar Maharaj, he says in one place, seva means death. Seva means real service means death. That our ego is dying. Not the physical death, but that our ego is dying. And in that death, the bright self will come out. That's really the idea here. Tungarasa, is this answering your question, or is this going in a different direction?
Yes, very nice, very helpful. Yes, Vishakha, as always, so much appreciation.
Do you want to add anything to that?
No, so as I understood your explanation that by this connection with the higher, with divine, we will be able to live these anchors or like impure things. Is it like that? Yeah.
Yes, yeah, through that connection and reciprocating sincerely with that connection. Because, we all have some sukriti, we have some good fortune, but we don't just want to sit on that. We want to increase our capital. We don't just want to sit on it. But what we receive, we want to, it won't leave us. We have that comfort. We are given that assurance. Nehabi gramo nashosti pratyavayo navidyate swalpam apyasya dharmasya chayate mahatobayat. Bhagavad Gita. Whatever little progress we can make on this path, it can never be destroyed. No, it cannot be. So that will remain with us. No, that will not leave us. But the question is whether we are just sitting on it, or if we're actually taking that and investing it and allowing it to become bigger. We have enough sukriti, enough good spiritual fortune that brought us to the door. Now we need to, continue to reciprocate with that, take that opportunity and go further with it. And if we do that, we will feel the results. Our Gurudev would express that, right? We're not dealing with dead matter. We are dealing with a living force, a living spiritual force. It is subtle, but because it is subtle does not mean that it is not also tangible and present and able to reciprocate with us. So if we give our energy to that sincerely, we will feel the reciprocation. We will feel that reciprocation. We will feel that wealth growing in our heart. We will feel that divine grace within our lives. So, but even just to maintain it, that is also not a small thing. Just to maintain what we have and maintain appreciation for what we have. That's also not a small thing. And sometimes the cover may come for some time, may come and go. We are on a journey. We're on a march towards the infinite. There will be many things that come up from within, without. Does anyone else want to add anything to that, or should we invite Skaro? Chinmoy Prabhu, please.
Well, I always find it helpful to think about that analogy between the tiger and the monkey. So this is a way to describe certain aspects of divinity, where the Lord you consider as a tiger, grabs the cub, moves the cub wherever it wants. That's one type of way of thinking about it. But more in our line is the analogy of the monkey. The monkey, the baby holds on to the Lord, and the Lord takes the baby where it needs to go. So like you were saying with Yashoda, that there's two things. There's our effort, and then there's the Lord's mercy. So both of those things are necessary for us to make progress.
Very nice Chinmoy Peru.
And I really like, maybe you know this shloka, but the Chato Shraddha, I can't remember it, but in the Bhagavatam, you know that one?
It's like 4 or 5 verses. Yes.
Yeah.
Srimad Bhagavatam. Yes. Yeah.
So that one also is very helpful, I think, for us, because it's saying that, we have this connection, but we're also very attached to the material world. And we know that there's really not much we can do about it. But if we know that and we're still attached, Krishna will help us.
Yeah, very nice, Chinmoy Prabhu. And Srila Sridhar, she also made a very helpful comment on this how do you say, debate, or because it's a bit of a debate in the Ramanuja line, like what is the nature of Sharanagati? What is the nature of surrender? Is it like the cat or is it like the monkey, right? But Srila Sridhar, she harmonized this very nicely, by saying that when we're in the stage of a sadhaka, a practitioner, as Chinmoy Prabhu said, then it will be more like the baby kitten or the baby tiger, where you have to, the monkey, the other way around. But the baby monkey has to hold on, right? So in the stage of the practitioner, then there will be more emphasis on that. Because we're fighting our own self, in a sense. The enemy is within our own minds and senses. They want to go the other way. Right? So in the beginner, in the practicing stage, there will be more emphasis on that. It's not like we just jump out of bed in the morning. Oh, I want to go to chant the Lord's holy name at 5 a.m. We don't always feel like, oh, I just love chanting all the time. It doesn't really go like that. Or sometimes. Sometimes being with the devotees can be challenging and difficult. Right? Continuing with our service life, so many challenges. So that's where sadhana comes in, our effort, our endeavor, and there's a struggle, there's an element of struggle there. But then Srila Sridhar, she added to that, but at a higher stage, then things will change. Then the analogy of the cat or the tiger will be more applicable. Oh, whatever inspiration comes, because there's more of a direct channel with the Lord, with the divine flow. Oh, whatever inspiration comes in my heart, I'm moving with that. There's not that resistance. There's a natural attraction to the divine flow, divine service current. So, like I remembered once when I read in Chaitanya Charitamrita how Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he went to the morning arati, right? In Jagannath Puri, and it just somehow struck me in this way, like, wow, like I go to arati and Lord Chaitanya Dev also goes to arati, but it's from a completely vastly different standpoint of consciousness. So all these things that we're doing, we'll continue doing them, but the consciousness will transform radically. So. All right. Well, should we go back to Scarlett? Because Scarlett had the point that she brought up last week, which we didn't finish discussing. It was what was it again, Scarlett? Do you remember? She's looking shy. I'm sure Marie remembers. Do you remember, Marie?
Well, the vocabulary I would use to describe it is how to how to harmonize free will and predestination. I'm not sure what the vocabulary is you would use there, but.
No, I think that's great. That was why I asked you, because I remembered you'd phrased it in a very clear way. Yeah. So free will and predetermination, is that what you said? Were those the words you used? Marie?
Not that word, but it means exactly the same. Not in that word, but it's exactly the same.
Right. Because we're told, right, that everything happens by the Lord's will, you know, and the Lord is described as Sarva Karana Karanam, the cause of all causes. And in the beginning of Srimad Bhagavatam, there's that Arto, what is it? Arto Isha Swarat. Maybe Chinmoy remembered. Janmad Yaseyataha. Arto Bigya Swarat. No, he's aware of everything. He's in full awareness of everything. His will is backing everything. So then, but then at the same time, we're told that we all have free will. So that can be a little puzzling, right? How can there be free will if the Lord's will, the Lord is controlling everything. If nothing is outside of his will, and then you could also say, you know, how is it that so many terrible things can happen? How can he allow them to happen? You know, I'm just going to close this. They keep leaving this door open. So, you know, this is a very complex discussion. And I believe Jiva Goswami has discussed this point in some of his Sandarbhas. And, you know, I will just give a very simple answer, but I'm not going to pretend that this is the end of the discussion. But what is sufficient for me? Right? Because, you know, ultimately these things, they, you know, it comes down to that. It's like similar to that issue. Like we could discuss, you know, for infinity how we got here, but the main point is that we're here, and how do we move forward, right? So it's a similar type of thing, but still, it you know, to support our faith, it is helpful to have some understanding. So I'll share simply what understanding I have. I'm not a scholar, philosopher, theologian, but simply that this whole system is created by the Lord. You know, it is like say there's a playground, right? And in that playground, you can go and you can play in so many things there, and you can do as you like, and you can get into fights with the other children, and or you can hug each other and so on. You can play on the swings and the slides, right? So you can enter that playground and you can experience some freedom. You can experience a degree of freedom, right? And you have the space to learn your own lessons, have your own fun, you know, and so on and so forth. But at the same time, there's somebody monitoring that playground, right? It's not that it's a completely independent entity, you know, but it's part of a wider system, and it's being monitored. So in the same way, you know, and within that playground, you can learn about the laws of action and reaction, right? And you can learn about being responsible for independent activity. You know, this world is really the place where we learn that, you know, being independent means that we have to be responsible. You know? We wanted independence. We wanted freedom that was separate from the whole. And so we're given that opportunity. And then we experience what it means to be independent, and we have to be responsible for our actions. You know, that's what this world is for. And then ultimately we learn the beauty of interdependence. We learn the beauty of being part of an organic whole, that we are actually one part within a whole. We are part of a greater, more beautiful system, and we have something particular to contribute there. So, but if we have this, like concocted idea of being a separate entity that is greater than others, then we're given an opportunity to learn, what the reactions to that are. So this whole system, system of action and reaction karma, that is not outside of the Lord's jurisdiction. No, he's giving us free will. And, it's not that he is directly supporting, everything that we're doing. It's not that, like our Gurudev said, if a man goes and beats his wife and says, oh, it's God's will, otherwise it couldn't happen, that's ridiculous. I will go and I will thieve and I will murder and do so many terrible things and say, oh, this is God's will. No, that's ridiculous. That is, we have to make a distinction between what is directly the Lord's will and what he's indirectly allowing to happen, sanctioning. It is like you could say a child, like sometimes children, they have to learn the hard way. Like if a child wants to stick their finger in fire, then the parent may say, oh, my dear child, don't put your hand in the fire, it'll burn. And the child may not be able to listen and say, hey, I'm going to put my hand in the fire if I want to, all right? So then the parent may say, okay, like I've heard this funny thing a few times of parents who, they gave their children a cigarette, like at some crazy age, like 8 years old. Maybe some Chinmoy's nodding his head. I've heard of that a few times. And then from that young age, Chintami's like, then the child is like, oh, this is not cool. This is horrible. Then it's like they got it out of their system, So it's.
My dad was telling me that his dad did that. That's what I was nodding my head. We're here.
Really?
He's right next door, and we're on our separate Zoom accounts, listening and sharing that song. That song during the Sat song.
So there you go. It's like that, but that's not outside of, so then that child is taking that cigarette, experiencing the consequences of that. So there's an element of freedom there, but it's also not outside of the overall control of the Lord. It's not outside of in that case, of the parents, right? So it is like that, we're being given this opportunity to experience the results of independent action and becoming responsible, becoming more aware. So there's an element of independence, but it's not outside of the greater control and that greater system of the Lord. And then we can also add on to that. And this I think I talked about when you brought it up initially. Another factor which limits our free will is the fact that we are already coming into things with previous baggage, right? We're already coming into things, and we're into these particular births with the black box of our previous lives, right? So all of our previous experiences, activities, impressions, desires, we're carrying that with us. So that's also limiting our free will. So it's true that we don't have that much free will, but we have something. Otherwise, as Srila Sridhar says in one place, like correction is just like vengeance. What's the point of correction or punishment if there's no opportunity for rectification? So there's some degree of free will there, but it may be limited, but there's something there. And another thing is that this is maybe going into another discussion, but we also depend on causeless mercy. We also depend on causeless grace. And this is where what is called agyata sukriti comes in. This is how the whole journey begins for the spiritual seeker. That we somehow or other come in contact with the saints, with the Vaishnava saint. and we render some service to them, knowingly or unknowingly, then we are increasing our spiritual wealth. And that it is that grace that will enable us to have the capacity to appreciate and to feel attraction to that higher plane. Is this, Scarlett, is any of this making sense to you? Is it
because I have been experiencing and I have been seeing it, many situations where I can't really believe its own choice. For instance, a child get burned. The child doesn't know anything, right or wrong. The child is only 3 years old or 4 years old or 2 years old and get burned. Then I wonder, how is that to have to do with free will? Was it that the child was tested and that's why the child choice was to get burned? So it's difficult for me to grasp that free will, there is really something, it has to do with free will. But in my understanding, everything what I read about what Lord Krishna says himself via Bhagavad Gita, via Veda books, that he says he's the only one who is having control over everything, decide everything. And for me, I just understand it like we are in the film, what to say, in the movie, and we get to play a role, but it has nothing to do with that I choose it or not. It has nothing to do. I got to play a role in this life now. And if I do the play good, okay, maybe next life I do another play, and so on and so on, until I get to not to be with the play anymore. You know what I mean? That is, I don't say it is like that, but it seems like that for me. So that's why I have difficulty to understand. Because, as I told you, there is so many experience I have in my baggage. It makes me to really wonder, is it really free choice or is it a plan? A plan for us, for each one of us to go through something in our life, in our situation, to be with the whole play of system. You know what I mean?
The thing is, Scarlett, it's very, very complicated, because you have to remember you're coming into this birth with what you've created. You've created this for the most part.
Even that I wonder, because there is this one we say, this is what I created. But in the same time, there are something you will read in Shastras that it talks about, for instance, I know that there will be explanation for them, but still there is there. For instance, there was a saint man who do everything according to Lord's will and everything. But then he got convicted for something that he didn't know himself, why he was in the conviction and why they are going to torture him with the metal pole inside him. And when he later on he goes and meets the Yamura and say, why did I need to go through that? I have done everything right. Then he said, yes, because when you were a child, you put the straw in the ant's body. I mean, it's a child. The child doesn't know right and wrong. And he says it. but I was a child. And then he goes and curses Yamura, and Yamura born as a Vidura. But I mean, okay, you can explain it. He did it just because he wants to be born like someone. But I mean, in the same time, there are things that it seems when I read, I get this understanding that there is a plan, yes. There is a play you are with, yes. But to say karma, I don't know. I don't know how to make of it. I can't say, because there are so many that they go through. They're always, I get to read always that it was arranged by Lord, was arranged by Lord, was arranged by Lord. Ram went through that 14 years because it was arranged by Lord, because it was arranged to this and that. I mean, okay, it was exalted by God and so on. It was incarnation of God. Okay, I can understand that. But I mean, there are other situations that, for instance, Ajamil, he was a very sane man, but still he did something terrible. But still, before he gets the child, before he go and do that bad thing, some saint go and telling his wife to choose the name of Narayan for the child. So when Ajamil gets when he died, then he he's in way to die, he just screamed the name Narayan, Narayan, but he's calling his child. Still, it counts like he's calling for God.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it's play. For me, it's like everything is play. It's not.
We have a few hands raised here.
Okay.
So I think I understand better where you're coming from. Jayadev had his hand up first, and then Marie. Jayadev, are you still there? Oh, maybe he had to go.
He's probably opening up the gate right now as he's driving down the hill.
Okay, we'll hear from Marie then. We'll hear from Jayadev later. You're mute. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. This was 2 summers ago, was me going through this and into the fall struggle with realizing how limited free will was, and that it's always the same choice. It's always yes, Lord, or no, I'm going to do my thing. It's binary. It's like the only thing that really is. And so then I was like, but if I always have that choice of yes or no, then how can God have planned these things? How can everything be part of a plan? How can I know that the next thing is going to go God's way? Because I might say no when I should say yes. And this was, of course, very stressful to me, because everything is stressful to me, especially if I have responsibility for it. So, and what finally helped was thinking about like science fiction and comic books, where there are alternate timelines, and that theory that if you change one thing, you start a completely new timeline. And I realized God's big enough to know all the timelines. So what helped me was not to think about it as God has a plan and I am either choosing to follow that plan or not. It was all of the plans are God's plan, and I am choosing which one I participate in. And
very nice. I like that.
And when I realized that, then I realized that I could look back and see all of the times I had chosen the harder path for myself. And I realized just in this lifetime, I have probably made that no choice enough times to merit everything unwelcome I've experienced. So then I'm like, okay, well, I don't have to worry about whether I did something in a previous life and am being held responsible for it now and can't really learn from it because I don't know what I did. Because just the one life is enough. I've made that choice that harmed myself enough times to account for all of the harm that I've experienced. And that's how it took me months. It took me months, but that's how I finally got to it. I don't know if that helps, but that's what worked for me.
I thought that was wonderful, Marie. I hope I saw Scarlett dropped out for a few minutes, so her connection dropped. I hope she heard it.
No. I needed to do something, so that's why I closed my camera. But I was,
okay.
and I heard everything. So don't worry. I heard everything, so it's okay.
Then let's hear from Jayadev. He's also had his hand raised.
I am going to definitely with that again. That I love that too. The choice within like which of God's plans I chose. Like that's amazing. Can you hear me? Okay.
Not so well. It's a bit distorted.
Yeah.
But I think we got the gist of what you're saying.
Yeah, I had things. Well.
No, we can't hear you.
When first asked the question.
Yeah. Yeah, unfortunately, we can't hear you. Yeah, okay, Jaidev, we'll have to hear from you when your connection is better. Well, I really liked what Marie said, and I want to make that the title of this meeting, Choosing God's Plan. I really liked that. But I'll let me add to that, Scarlett. You know, there's actually a verse in Bhagavad Gita which mentions, and maybe someone here, maybe Chinmoy or Govind Nandini can say which, or Rasaraj can say which verse, but it mentions, I believe 5, like there are 5, what is the word that is used? There are 5 factors that are behind everything that takes place. So it is true, karma is one of those things, but it's not the only thing. No. And remember, we're also interfacing with the karma of so many others, which can bring about a new result. If you say with your free will, you decide to move to another country, you're becoming a part, you're taking on the collective karma of that country. And all these new permutations can take place. No, so there are many different factors which will contribute to anything happening. You know, we're coming in with something. There are unexpected, spontaneous things in the environment which we can choose to respond to in different ways, and depending on our response, we're creating a new chain of experiences. And I also wanted to and then there's also the element of causeless mercy, causeless grace, connecting with the nirguna plane, the transcendental plane. You know, that is something that can come in without any cause, without any you know, activity on our part. It can just come before us and enter our lives. And that's another factor. And another thing I wanted to mention, just as a side note, that example that you mentioned of that sage, that story is told in Mahabharata, but you have to remember that's from a different age, and the laws change in different ages. And in earlier ages, we're held more accountable for our actions. You know, so for example, because in this age of Kali Yuga, we have less control over our minds and senses, so we're dealt with more leniently. You know, so for example, we're told that in previous ages, we would have to face karma even for our thoughts. But in this age, that is not considered because we have such uncontrolled minds. So, you know, and then there's individual things to be considered. Someone who is of a more ignorant nature, they'll be held less accountable for their activity. Someone who is more enlightened but does something wrong, they'll be held more accountable. You know, there are many different factors. It's not a one size fits all. So we can't apply that incident to ourselves. You know. So I don't know, is any of this helpful for you, Scarlett? And
I just want to somehow to explain that the free choice to choose God's side or not. Again, since I was 8 years old, I have asked and I have prayed and I have begged for, please, I know you are there. I know you are the creator. I know there is a creator and I believe it with all my heart. But then tell me what I'm doing here. It took me 50 years before I found my first, before I got my first Bhagavad Gita as it is. And then when I studied, when I read it, when I read the Srimad Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita, Nectar of Devotion, Nectar of Instruction, and everything, oh, believe me, I read all of them like crazy. And for me, I chose as 8 years old already, and I asked for, but I didn't get it because it was not time for me. Because it was not planned for me. That is what I mean. Everything looks the way he wants it. Everything happened the way the Lord wants it. It has nothing to do with I choose it or not choosing all the time. It has nothing to do with that. Only, especially when it comes to spirituality, I don't know. I tried, I did everything. And I studied Bible, I went to church, I did everything you can imagine in the way of religion and spirituality. I didn't find the answer before I got the Bhagavad Gita. Then I learned everything is planned according Lord's will. Lord wants it this way, and there might be thousand yogis. Not everyone could understand Lord's way. He says, nobody, not one knows me, knows what I am and why I am. He says it himself in the Bhagavad Gita. There might be thousand yogis, they study, they do everything, but not one. There is not one who could really say they know me. So that's why even though I want to, and I'm going to continue. I believe that I'm going to continue and study and do everything I can to live by it, but still to talk about free will, choosing, I have difficulty with that. I don't know how to think about it. I don't know how to take it. But still, I'm not going to leave it. I'm going to continue, promise.
Well, Scarlett, it may be that you're a completely surrendered soul and you're living fully aligned with the Lord's will. So this whole concept of free will is very foreign to you. Chinmoy Prabhu has been waiting to say something after that.
I think it's necessary to introduce the concept of achintya here.
Thank you.
Conceivable.
Thank you. Haribol.
Yeah, because karma, there's not like an algorithm and we're going to go search Google and we'll find the karma algorithm and then we're going to put in our numbers and that's why that happened. That's why. This is inconceivable, really it's beyond us. We're not going to understand this. But what we will have is have faith that what the scriptures and guru is telling us, karma does exist. It's based on your own actions. There is sukriti. There is the mercy of the Lord. There are all these things that are working together. And so if we have faith in that, whatever we've done in the past, okay, that's done. That may come to affect us. But now here we are here. Due to our karma, due to Skriti, due to the Lord's mercy, here we are. We have a chance to progress further in our spiritual life. What's the karmic algorithm? I don't know. Beyond my pay grade.
That was wonderful. That was wonderful. Chai. Well, now I have to decide between karmic algorithm and God's plan. These are two great titles. You know, there's a really nice section in Revealed Truth where Gurudev talks about this point about a chincha that is inconceivable. And when I read that, it was like I heaved a sigh of relief. It was like, oh, thank you, Gurudev, you know, because he's saying there, you know, all these things like, how did we come here? Why did we come here? How is it possible that we're going against the Lord's will? Like, ultimately, it's all a chincha. It's inconceivable. So I feel like we get a lot of relief by remembering that point. And Jayadev is raising his hand again. And by the way, there's also some nice comments in the chat from Govinda and Marie.
I'll try one more time. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, it sounds better.
Okay. The thing that came to me immediately the first time she asked the question was this concept of the buffer in karma, time as a component of karma. And time, you don't have an immediate reaction to your karma. Karma and the reaction your experiences is something you practice lifetime after lifetime after lifetime. So what you're experiencing is the result of your free will, but it's been very vastly delayed because you don't get immediate reaction to karma. You have to work at the karma you have over and over and over again. So there's this element of it's, I think you brought it up, Vishakha. Somewhere I heard it and it blew my mind that in one sense, time is like a merciful buffer for karma. It's like, thank God we don't get immediate reactions to our karma because we'd be in a lot of trouble, but that the Lord has mercifully arranged this time buffer. And so I think that explains, for example, why as a child experiencing, you know, this horrible thing when it didn't make a choice. Yeah, it didn't make choices in this lifetime. You know, who knows what we've done in infinite past lifetimes, literally infinite. There's no amount to the past lifetimes we've had. And we've been everything. We might think we're so great in this lifetime, but we've done some hellish stuff, mind-blowing stuff we can't even conceive of. We've been directly involved in that. And time mercifully is spreading the reaction of that over lifetimes. And so just that buffer, there's so much more I could say, but I just wanted to at least get that part out because it came for some reason to me when you first asked that question, Scarlett.
Thank you so much, Jayadev. Very nice point. And another thing that we can add is that, you know, we get kind of lost in the relativity of our own existence, but 50 years is not a long time at all. You know? It's not a long time.
Remember, okay, now if you look, it's not that I'm just thinking about my own life. It's not that. But when I read about in Bhagavad Gita that it says that there was nothing from the beginning. There was nothing, and he created. So when the creation happened, and he created us or human being and the animal and so on and so on. You can say it's difficult for me to believe that already from the first life he started to create, there was so many wrongdoing. Then it means the Lord creates faulty things, faulty being. No, it's difficult for me to believe that Lord create faulty life. So I mean, for me, it's more probably in my head is more that, okay, like if I say it's very, very, very low way to say it. As I said myself, I love to be a mother, and I got my children, 6 children I have, 3 boys, 3 girls. I love them and I do everything to be there for them, and so on and so on. In the same way, I love my children to appreciate for what I am for them and what I do for them. When they don't do it, then the only thing I can do, okay, you're on your own. I don't call, I don't hear, but you understand what I mean? I don't mean that there is something like that happening, but still, as a parent, I would like my children to behave right, to do right. But if they don't do, I said, okay, you're on your own. Okay. I don't like the behavior. I just leave you. Okay, you do what you want. And that what I'm thinking is, he created us to love him, of course, to worship him, of course, with all what it means. In the same time, I have difficulty to believe that he creates faulty being. Because if it means that he create a being which was already from the first day bad without him wanting it, so it will be difficult for me to grasp it.
Well, Scarlett, what about this, that he desired to create faulty beings?
Exactly. That's what I mean. Exactly. That's what I mean. It might be that this is his play.
That is also true.
Yes, it's his play.
Has also said that.
Yes, it is play, and okay, that's it. More for me, it goes better than to say they one like that, one like that, one like that. We don't know about it, but it is like that. For me, it's like he wants it. It is his play. He wants it this way.
Scarlett, let me say something here. You're actually coming to a very high point here, esoteric, fine point. And it's not something to be emphasized, because if we do, it encourages, what's the word? A very, lazy approach, let's say. Like, oh, I don't need to do anything because it's all part of the Lord's play, right? So that's why this point is not emphasized, but you're right. That is also a factor. And Srila Sridhar Maharaj has discussed that he said from the highest vision, we must see that this whole mundane world has been created so the Lord can come and play out his Leela as the Patit Pavam avatar. To say he has to be a hero, you need to have people to rescue, right? So it is also, now I think I'm understanding more where you're coming from. That yes, from the highest vision, it is true. It is not outside of the Lord's play. This is also part of the Lord's play. But it's a little bit of a dangerous idea if someone approaches it with insincerity. So, these are fine points. But definitely you are correct. Yes. Chinmoy Prabhu, please.
I would just like to mention about the freedom of the Jiva soul. What's the one thing that cannot be taken or cannot be forced? And that's love. That's what the Lord wants. The Lord wants our love. That can be only freely given. So the Jiva soul must inherently have freedom in order to love the Lord. So that is given to us so that we can love the Lord. Love cannot be forced or taken. So the Jiva soul must inherently have freedom.
Jai, thank you, Chinmoy Prabhu. Well, Scarlett, thank you so much for bringing up such a hot topic. It drew out a lot of wonderful discussion, lively discussion from our group today. And I hope everyone has.
Thank you for a wonderful class. Thank you. And please forgive me if I say something that was not right or not well said. So please forgive me. I just want to learn. I mean nothing about it. I love what I'm studying. I love to worship and do everything I can for what I believe now, but I still need to learn things. And that's why I asked this question. So please forgive me if I have done any offense. Please forgive me. All of you.
Hi, Scarlett, Devi Dasi, ki jai.
Jai. Jai, Jai.
Jai.
Thank you, Scarlett. Thank you. Jai Shri Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj ki Jai, Shri Bhakti Daksha Sridhar Dev Goswami Maharaj ki Jai, all the assembled devotees, sincere seekers ki Jai, Shri Shri Guru Gauranga Ganari ki Hari ki Jai, Jai Gaur Premanande, Hari Bol.
Jai Vishakha Devi Dasi ki.
Jai.
Jai, Jai, Devi Dasi ki Jai.